I will now show you Studwork metal, including boarding both sides and plaster module. Again, the length of my Studwork wall will be 11 linear metres, the height 2.4, and as it's metal studwork, I will only want one row of bottom plate, one row of top plate and one row of centre noggins. My centres will be 0.4 and I will have two corners and one T-section. To carry out this work I'll need 38 studs at 2.4 high. The metal stud will go through the flange of the top and bottom plate, that's why it will be 2.4. The area of my wall is 26.4 metres square. I can see that by entering these numbers, the pricing sheet contains a lot of information and calculations. Let's take a look. The quantities and hours for my top plates, bottom plates, noggins and studs are all shown here. The 6% wastage has been allowed. If you want to alter this percentage, you can do so here, in the cell at the top of the screen. The blue text is letting me know that due to the length of the stud I have selected to use, I'll need to cut 0.3 linear metres off each one. The installation is next. If it's not required, you can just untick it like this, and instantly the costs and hours are removed. I will be using it, so I'll just retick the box and the costs return. I am using door linings, so I do need to enter the quantity I want here, in the blue cell, as it's impossible for the programme to know. I will enter 2, and the cost and hours are worked out and accounted for. All of my plasterboard, scrim tape, plastering hours, plaster and fixings for my studs and plasterboard are all worked out. If you are not doing the plastering, you can just untick the plastering items like this, and you'll be left with the cost of just the metal stud work. I am doing the plastering, so I'll just retick these boxes. I'll just quickly click on the fixings question mark. As you can see in these diagrams you can look at, and if required, alter the way the fixings have been worked out. This may be something that you could set up in your master copy, so you didn't need to check it every time you priced. Or you can change it here on the pricing sheet. I'm happy with both the fixing default calculations, so I'll be leaving them as they are. My metal stud work including boarding both sides is priced, and I can see the totals for my materials, hours, labour and overall total here along the bottom. Finally in this movie, I will be showing you our Studwork metal boarding one side module. It works in exactly the same way as our metal boarding both sides, but obviously the plaster calculations are based on the fact that only one side of the stud work is being plastered. So as before, I enter the length of my studwork wall. This will be 11 linear metres. The height 2.4. As it's metal stud work, I'll only want one row of bottom plate, one row of top plate and one row of centre noggins. My centres will be 0.4 and I'll have two corners and one T-section. To carry out this work I'll need 38 studs at 2.4 high. The metal stud will go through the flange of the top and bottom plate, that's why it will be 2.4. The area of my wall is 26.4 metres square. I can see that by entering these numbers the pricing sheet now contains a lot of information. So like before, we'll take a look. My top plates, bottom plates, noggins and studs are all worked out here. If you wanted to change the material selection for any of these, you can do so by using the drop-down menu and selecting the material you want. I am also given the blue text again that tells me with the material for the studs I've selected, I'll need to cut off 0.3 linear metres. Again, my installation and all of my plastering items and fixings are all calculated. As I mentioned at the start, the main difference with our metal studwork modules is the plastering quantities, which are approximately half that of the double boarding module. If you are not doing the plastering, or if you didn't require any insulation, you can just untick the items that are not needed and the costs and hours are instantly removed. The same helpful diagrams can be found if you click on any of the question marks, including the fixings. In these diagrams you can see how the calculations are reached, and you can alter them if you wish, here in the pricing sheet or in your master copy. The totals for my materials, hours, labour and total cost are here along the bottom. As I hope you've seen in this movie, whatever type of studwork job you're pricing, you can be sure that if you're using one of our modules, working out the costs will be easy, fast and accurate.